3 days had passed since the incident that shook the galaxy, and General Kekstar found himself in a position he had never imagined. The mighty Vorthon warrior sat in the human medical bay, receiving treatment from Dr. Yoon Ji-hai, while trying to understand how his entire worldview had been destroyed in 3 seconds. The general's ribs were badly bruised, and his breathing was still painful, but his pride was hurt far more than his body. He had built his reputation on being undefeatable in combat, and now every being in the galaxy knew that a small human woman had knocked him down with a single punch. Han So. Young entered the medical bay to check on other patients, and General Kekstar watched her with new eyes. She moved with the same gentle grace as before, but now he understood that her gentleness was a choice, not a weakness. The small cut on her cheek from his claws had healed, but the memory of her defiant stare would stay with him forever. So Young approached the general bed with professional calmness and asked Dr. Yoon if she could help with his treatment. Kekstar expected her to show hatred or satisfaction at seeing him helpless, but instead she showed the same caring concern she gave to all patients. The general spoke to So Young in a voice much quieter than his usual commanding tone. He asked her why she was helping him after what he had done. So Young looked at him with those steady eyes and explained that helping others was what humans did regardless of past conflicts. Her simple answer made the powerful alien warrior feel smaller than any defeat in battle ever could. Commander Velox had spent the last 3 days in emergency meetings with representatives from dozens of species. The political situation on Harmony Station had completely changed as everyone tried to figure out what the new reality meant for galactic relations. The blue-skinned commander felt like he was managing a completely different universe than the one he had known before Ambassador. Lee received a priority message from Earth that made her smile with relief and pride. The Galactic Council had unanimously voted to grant humanity full membership with all the rights and privileges of major spacefaring civilizations. Earth would no longer be treated as a junior member seeking approval. Jinwoo worked around the clock handling requests from alien species who wanted to establish formal relations with Earth. The young diplomat, who had once felt nervous and inadequate, now found himself scheduling meetings with ambassadors from the most powerful empires in the galaxy. The Vorthon High Command sent a fleet to Harmony Station, but not for the invasion that everyone expected. Instead, they came to negotiate a formal alliance with humanity. The Vorthon military leaders had studied the reports of human capabilities and decided that having humans as enemies would be far too dangerous. General Kekstar received orders from his superiors to establish peaceful relations with the human delegation. His pride rebelled against the idea, but his tactical mind understood the wisdom of the decision. A species that could produce warriors like So Young deserved respect, not Conquest Park. Minho found his security duties completely transformed. Instead of protecting humans from hostile aliens, he now had to manage the crowds of species wanting to meet with human representatives. The former soldier enjoyed the irony of aliens now being afraid to cause trouble in the human quarters. Dr. Yoon continued her medical work, but now had assistance from various alien species who wanted to learn human healing techniques. The Melody scientists were particularly interested in how humans could recover so quickly from injuries that would permanently disable other beings. Kim Tae-hyun received offers from alien engineering firms who wanted to hire him after seeing how well he maintained human equipment with limited resources. The maintenance chief politely declined the offers but appreciated the recognition of his skills. The Kralik warriors requested permission to spar with human fighters after learning about human physical advantages. The shell-covered aliens had always believed they were the second strongest species in the galaxy and wanted to test themselves against these surprising newcomers. Earth began sharing carefully selected information about human evolution and the challenges of living on a high-gravity world with dangerous predators. The data helped explain why humans were so much tougher than they appeared, and why their reflexes and strength exceeded most alien expectations. So Young became an unwilling celebrity throughout the galaxy, as news networks shared the story of the nurse who defeated the most feared general in Vorthon history. She tried to continue her normal work, but found aliens traveling from across the galaxy just to meet her. The young woman handled the attention with the same grace she showed in everything else she gave. Interviews where she emphasized that humans valued peace and cooperation, but would defend themselves when necessary. Her words became famous quotes that were repeated on worlds throughout the galaxy general. Kextar made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. He requested a private meeting with So Young to formally apologize for his behavior. The proud warrior had never apologized to anyone in his life, but he understood that some actions required acknowledgement when they met. In the medical bay, Kextar stood as straight as his injured ribs would allow and spoke with genuine respect. He told So Young that he had been wrong about humans and that his species had confused brutality with strength for too long. The general asked for her forgiveness not as a defeated enemy, but as one warrior acknowledging another. So Young accepted his apology with quiet dignity and told him that she hoped their species could work together to make the galaxy a safer place for everyone. Her response impressed the general even more than her fighting ability had, because it showed wisdom beyond her years. Ambassador Lee organized a formal ceremony where representatives from major alien civilizations signed friendship treaties with Earth. The event was broadcast across the galaxy and marked the beginning of a new era, where humans stood as equals among the stars. Jin Woo stood beside his ambassador during the ceremony and marveled at how much had changed. He remembered his fear and nervousness from just days before and realized that humans had never needed to prove their worth to anyone. They had always been worthy. They just needed the chance to show it. The ceremony concluded with General Kextar presenting So Young with a Vorthan Medal of Honor, the first time such recognition had ever been given to a non-Vorthan. The general explained that true strength came from protecting others, not conquering them, and that humans had taught his species an important lessons. The various alien delegations prepared to return to their homeworlds. The atmosphere on Harmony Station felt completely different. Species that had barely tolerated each other now worked together on joint projects inspired by the human example of cooperation despite differences. So Young returned to her work in the medical bay where she continued treating patients with the same gentle care as always. But now when alien children saw her in the corridors, they looked at her with wonder instead of dismissal, knowing that kindness and strength could exist in the same person. The galaxy had learned that judging others by appearance was a dangerous mistake, and that the smallest beings could sometimes surprise everyone. Humanity had found its place among the stars not through conquest or submission, but by simply being themselves. The giant space station called Harmony floated in the dark void between stars like a metal city in space. Jinwoo Park pressed his face against the window of the human quarters and stared at the amazing sight before him. Hundreds of alien ships moved around the station like busy insects, each one carrying creatures from different worlds that humans had only dreamed about. Just 5 years ago, Jin Woo was 24 years old, and this was his first job working for Earth in space. He served as a helper to Ambassador Lee Da-min, who was trying to make friends with all the scary alien races that controlled most of the galaxy. Jin Woo felt nervous every day, because he knew that one wrong word could mean trouble for all humans everywhere. The station was huge beyond imagination, with different sections for each alien race. The human area was small and tucked away in a corner, like an afterthought. Most aliens thought humans were stupid animals who had just learned to use spaceships. The humans had been part of the Galactic Council for only 2 years, and every day they had to prove they deserved to be there. Lee Da-min walked into the room carrying a stack of papers. Her face looked worried as she read the latest reports from different parts of the galaxy. She was 45 years old with gray hair and tired eyes from dealing with alien politics every day. She had fought hard to get humans accepted into the galaxy community, but it was not easy. The other aliens on the station made their feelings clear about humans. They would point and whisper when humans walked by. Some would make rude comments about how humans looked funny with their soft skin and small size. The Kralik race with their hard shell bodies would click their claws together, and what humans learned was alien laughter when they saw humans struggling with heavy equipment. Han So-young worked in the medical section of the station, taking care of sick and injured beings from many different worlds. She was 26 years old with kind eyes and gentle hands that could calm even the most frightened alien patients. Most aliens were surprised that a human could be so careful and caring when treating them. Many had heard that humans were violent and dangerous. So Young did not let the mean comments bother her. She believed that helping others was the most important thing anyone could do. It did not matter if they had scales or fur or tentacles. Everyone deserved to be treated with respect when they were hurt or sick. Her supervisor was an alien doctor who had started to respect her work, even though he had doubts about humans at first. Park Min-ho served as a security guard for the human section. He was 30 years old and had been a soldier on Earth before coming to space. His job was to keep the human areas safe and make sure no aliens caused trouble for his people. Min-ho noticed that more aliens had been acting aggressive toward humans lately, and this made him worry. The security job was not easy because humans were not allowed to carry the same weapons that other aliens used. The Galactic Council said humans were too new and might be dangerous with advanced alien technology. This meant Min-ho had to be very smart about how he protected his people without starting a fight that could get all humans kicked out of the galaxy. Kim Tae-hyun worked as the chief of maintenance for the human areas. He was an older man who took great pride in keeping everything clean and working properly. He knew that other aliens were always looking for reasons to complain about humans, so he made sure their section of the station was perfect every day. Tae-hyun had learned to fix alien technology by watching and practicing, until he became very good at it. Dr. Yoon Ji-hae ran the Human Medical Center on the station. She was a brilliant doctor who had studied alien biology so she could help both humans and aliens when they got sick. She worked closely with So Young and was impressed by how quickly the young nurse learned about different alien species. Ji-hae often had to defend human medical practices to alien doctors who thought human methods were too simple. Life on the station followed a daily routine that kept humans busy but also reminded them they were outsiders. The main cafeteria served food that humans could not eat, so they had to prepare their own meals in their small section. The recreation areas were designed for aliens with different body types, so humans often felt uncomfortable trying to relax there. The communication systems on the station used alien languages that humans were still learning. Jin-woo spent hours every day studying the complex grammar and sounds of different alien tongues. He knew that being able to talk directly with aliens without translation devices would help humans gain more respect. Every morning, Ambassador Lee held meetings with her small staff to discuss the political situation in the galaxy. The news was usually not good for humans. Various alien empires were expanding their territory, and smaller species were being forced to choose sides or face conquest. Earth was still too weak to protect itself if a major war started. The Vorthan Empire controlled the largest part of the galaxy, and they were known for their brutal military tactics. Their soldiers were giant reptile-like creatures who could crush most other aliens with their bare hands. The Vorthans believed that only the strongest species deserved to survive, and they looked down on everyone they considered weak. Recent reports said that Vorthan fleets were moving toward neutral space where the Harmony Station was located. This news made everyone on the station nervous, because Vorthan visits usually meant trouble for smaller species. The Vorthans liked to test other races to see if they were worth conquering, or if they should be left alone. Jin-woo listened to these reports with growing fear. He knew that humans had never faced anything like the Vorthan Empire before. Earth had some military ships, but nothing that could stand against the massive Vorthan war fleets. If the Vorthans decided humans were enemies, there would be nowhere to run or hide. Ambassador Lee tried to stay calm, but Jin-woo could see the worry in her eyes. She sent daily reports back to Earth asking for instructions on how to deal with the Vorthan threat. The answers from Earth were always the same. Stay diplomatic, avoid conflict, and hope for the best. As Jin-woo stood by the window watching alien ships come and go, he wondered if humans had made a mistake trying to join the galactic community. Maybe they should have stayed on Earth where they understood the rules and knew how to survive. The vast darkness of space seemed full of dangers that humans were not ready to face. The station alarm suddenly began to sound with a deep booming noise that made the metal walls vibrate. Jin-woo felt his heart start beating faster as he looked out the window and saw something that made his blood turn cold. A massive fleet of dark ships was approaching the station, and their design was unmistakable. The Vorthon Empire had arrived. The silence in the corridor stretched on for what felt like forever. Every alien present stared at the impossible scene before them. General Kekstar, the most feared warrior in the Vorthon Empire, lay on the floor struggling to breathe, while a small, human woman stood over him with blood on her cheek but fire in her eyes. The Vorthon guards reached for their weapons, but something strange happened to them. As they looked at Han So Young, they felt an emotion they had never experienced before when facing other species. Fear. Their hands hesitated on their weapon grips as they wondered if this human female could do to them what she had done to their General Park. Minho stepped forward and placed himself between So Young and the Vorthon soldiers. His movement was calm and confident, like he was just walking to get coffee, but every alien in the corridor instinctively moved back from him. The security officer did not look threatening, but suddenly nobody wanted to test what humans could really. To Dr. Yoon Ji-hai pushed through the crowd of watching aliens carrying her medical equipment. She knelt beside General Kekstar and began checking his condition with professional skill. The alien spectators watched in amazement as the human doctor treated the being who had just attacked her colleague with the same care she would show any patient. Jin Woo felt a strange new feeling growing in his chest: pride. He had spent months feeling ashamed of being human and worried about proving humanity worthy to the galaxy. But watching So Young stand tall after defeating the most powerful warrior they had ever met made him realize that maybe humans had nothing to be ashamed of after all. The news of what happened spread through the station faster than light speed. Messages flew between different alien quarters as species that had ignored humans for years suddenly wanted to know everything about these mysterious beings. Information networks buzzed with questions that nobody could answer. Commander. Velox arrived at the scene with station security, but stopped short when he saw General Kekstar on the floor. The blue-skinned station leader had ruled Harmony for 20 years and had never seen anything like this. The political implications made his head spin as he tried to figure out how to handle the situation. Ambassador Lee knelt beside Dr. Yoon and helped treat the fallen general. Her diplomatic training told her that this moment could either start a war or create a new understanding. Between species, Lee chose to show the same compassion that So Young had displayed, hoping that mercy might prevent bloodshed in the Kralik Quarter. The shell-covered warriors stopped their mockery of humans and began asking urgent questions about Earth gravity and human physical development. The Kralik had always prided themselves on being the strongest species after the Vorthons, but now they wondered if they had been wrong about the hierarchy of power. The Melody scientists immediately began calculating the force required to defeat a Vorthon warrior. Their computers worked frantically to understand the physics of what they had witnessed. When the results came back, showing that humans possessed 3 times the bone density of most species, the Melody leaders called an emergency meeting. Back on Earth, the news reached human government officials, who had been nervously waiting for reports from the diplomatic mission. President Chen received the message while in a meeting with military advisors. When she heard what had happened, she smiled for the first time in months and ordered the immediate release of carefully selected information about human capabilities. General Morrison of Earth Defense Forces had been preparing for the possibility that humanity might need to fight for survival in space. He opened classified files that contained data about human evolution on a high-gravity world and the physical advantages this gave them. The information that had been kept secret was now their greatest diplomatic tool. The human military began sharing footage of training exercises that showed soldiers moving in ways that would seem impossible to most alien species. Videos of humans surviving impacts that would kill other beings and continuing to fight with devastating effectiveness were transmitted to the Galactic Council. In the medical bay of Harmony Station, aliens, who had been patients of So Young, began telling other species about the gentle human nurse who had cared for them. Many remembered how her touch was firm but careful and how she could lift heavy medical equipment that took 2 aliens to move. They had thought she was just being helpful, but now they understood she was being gentle. The Zelic ambassador, who had often made jokes about human weakness, sent an urgent message to his home world, warning them to treat humans with much more respect. The insectoid alien had personal experience with So Young kindness when she treated his injured wing, and he now realized how much restraint she had shown. Dr. Yoon finished her examination of General Kekstar and announced that he would recover fully, but needed time to rest. The Vorthan general consciousness was returning, and his yellow eyes focused on the human doctor treating him with professional skill. His worldview began cracking as he processed being cared for by a member of the species he had just tried to humiliate. Ambassador Lee received communications from Earth Command that changed everything. The government was no longer asking her to apologize or avoid conflict. Instead, they instructed her to stand firm and demonstrate that humans were partners, not supplicants in the galactic community. Other alien species began approaching human representatives with new attitudes. The Corvin warships that had been preparing to test human resolve against their own warriors suddenly requested peaceful meetings instead. The Delphi Trade Federation offered lucrative business deals that they had previously reserved for major powers. Jin Wu found himself handling diplomatic requests from species that had barely acknowledged human existence before. Everyone wanted to know about Earth, about human society, and most importantly, about human physical capabilities. The young diplomat went from being ignored to being the most sought-after representative on the station. General Kekstar slowly sat up with Dr. Yoon help and looked directly at So Young, who was still standing nearby. With Park Min-ho, the massive alien warrior had never been defeated in personal combat, and the experience forced him to reconsider everything he thought he knew about strength and weakness. So Young met the general gaze without fear or hatred. She had done what needed to be done to protect her dignity and the dignity of all humans, but she took no pleasure in causing pain. Her medical training made her want to help, even those who had tried to hurt her. The crowd of watching aliens began to disperse, but the conversations would continue for days as news of the incident reached every corner of the galaxy. Species that had dismissed humans as primitive newcomers now wondered what other surprises the small, soft-skinned beings might have in store. Kim Tae-hyun quietly began cleaning up the mess in the human quarters, but this time other aliens offered to help. The maintenance chief accepted their assistance with dignity, knowing that everything had changed in those 3 seconds when So Young had shown the galaxy what humans were really capable of achieving. General Kekstar watched Han So Young as she bent down to pick up the scattered belongings on the floor. Her gentle movements and caring nature caught his attention in the worst possible way. The massive Vorthan general had spent his entire life believing that kindness was weakness and weakness deserved to be crushed. So Young did not notice the dangerous alien staring at her. She was focused on helping Jin Woo gather his destroyed personal items, including the broken pieces of his family photos. Her heart felt sad seeing how much damage the Vorthan soldiers had caused to things that meant so much to the humans. The other aliens who lived on the station had gathered outside the human quarters to watch what was happening. Word had spread quickly that General Kekstar was inspecting the newest species, and everyone wanted to see how the humans would handle the test. Many aliens placed bets on how long it would take for the humans to break down and beg for mercy. Ambassador Lee tried to maintain her diplomatic composure even as she watched her people being humiliated. She knew that any wrong reaction could result in Earth being removed from the Galactic Council, or worse, could lead to war between humans and the Vorthan. Empire Lee had to think about the safety of all humans everywhere, not just the ones on this station. Jin Woo felt his anger growing stronger as he watched So Young trying to clean up the mess that the Vorthan soldiers had made. The young diplomat had never felt such rage in his life, but he also knew that fighting back would only make things worse for everyone. His hands shook as he tried to control his emotions. Park Min-ho stood ready to protect his fellow humans, but he also understood the impossible situation they were in. His security training told him to act, but his diplomatic orders told him to stay calm. The conflict between his instincts and his duties made him feel helpless and frustrated. General Kekstar decided that the humans were not showing enough fear and respect. He had broken stronger species than these soft-skinned creatures, and he would not let them think they were special. The general began walking toward So Young with slow, deliberate steps that made the metal floor ring under his weight. Kim Tae-hyun saw the danger approaching and tried to step between the general and So Young, but a Vorthan guard blocked his path with a weapon. The older maintenance worker could only watch helplessly as the situation became more dangerous. Dr. Yoon Ji-hai had been treating injured aliens in her medical bay when she heard about the inspection. She rushed toward the human quarters, but arrived just as General Kekstar was positioning himself near So Young. The doctor immediately understood that something terrible was about to happen. So-Young finally looked up from gathering the scattered items and found herself staring at the massive form of General Kekstar looming over her. She had seen many different alien species during her work in the medical bay, but none had ever looked at her with such cold hatred and contempt. The general began speaking in his grinding voice, telling So-Young that humans were nothing more than soft-skinned vermin who had no place among the strong species of the galaxy. He said that human females were especially pathetic because they were weak, even compared to human males. So-Young listened to the insults, but did not back down or show fear. She had dealt with difficult patients before, and she knew that showing weakness would only make bullies more aggressive. Her medical training had taught her to stay calm under pressure even when facing dangerous situations. General Kekstar became angry when So-Young did not cower before him like other species always did. He was used to seeing fear in the eyes of those he intimidated, but this small human woman looked at him with steady determination that reminded him uncomfortably of Vorthan warriors. The watching aliens held their breath as they sensed that something dramatic was about to happen. Many had never seen anyone stand up to a Vorthan general before, and they wondered if the human woman understood how much danger she was in. Kekstar raised his massive clawed hand high above his head. The appendage was easily 3 times the size of So-Young's entire head, and his razor-sharp claws gleamed under the station lights. Every alien watching knew that this hand could crush bones and tear flesh with minimal effort. The general brought his hand down in a vicious slap aimed at So-Young's face. He put enough force behind the blow to send most alien species flying across the room. The sound of the impact echoed through the corridor like a thunderclap and made several watching aliens gasp in shock. But something impossible happened instead of falling to the ground like every other being who had ever been struck by General Kekstar. So-Young barely moved. The slap had enough force to shatter the bones of most species, but the human woman only staggered slightly to one side. A thin line of blood appeared on So-Young's cheek where the general claws had scraped her skin, but her eyes burned with defiant fire instead of fear or pain. She slowly turned her head to look directly at General Kekstar with an expression that made the massive alien take an involuntary step backward. The watching aliens murmured in confusion and disbelief. They had never seen anyone survive a full-force blow from a Vorthan general without serious injury. Some began to wonder if there was something different about humans that they had not understood before. So-Young felt something change inside her as she stood there with blood running down her face. All the months of discrimination and insults from various alien species came flooding back to her. She remembered every sneer, every cruel comment, every time someone had treated humans like they were inferior animals. Her right hand slowly closed into a fist as anger that had been building for months finally found its target. So-Young had spent her entire life helping others and avoiding violence, but sometimes even the most peaceful person reaches their breaking point. General Kekstar stared in shock at the small human who had not fallen from his devastating attack. He had never encountered any being who could withstand his strength, and the experience left him momentarily confused and uncertain. So-Young drew her arm back and aimed her fist at the center of General Kekstar's massive chest. Her movement was quick and precise like a striking snake. The months of physical therapy work she had done with injured patients had kept her muscles strong and her reflexes sharp. Her punch connected with the general's solar plexus with tremendous force. The impact made a deep, hollow sound that was completely different from the sharp crack of his slap against her face. General Kekstar's eyes went wide with shock as all the air exploded from his lungs. The mighty Vorthan general, who had conquered dozens of worlds and never lost a personal fight, felt his knees buckle beneath him. His massive body crashed to the metal floor of the station with a thunderous impact that shook the walls and made dust fall from the ceiling. 3 seconds had passed from the moment of his slap to his fall. 3 seconds that would change the course of galactic history forever. The corridor fell into complete silence, as every alien present tried to process what they had just witnessed. General Kekstar lay on the floor gasping for breath like a fish out of water, while So-Young stood over him with her fist still clenched and blood still running down her cheek. The Vorthan ships landed on the station docking bays with heavy thuds that shook the entire structure. General Kekstar stepped out of his command ship, and his massive form filled the doorway. He stood 9 feet tall with dark green scales covering his muscular body. His yellow eyes scanned everything around him like a predator looking for prey. Behind General Kekstar came his elite guard soldiers. Each one was almost as big as their leader, and they carried weapons that could cut through metal, like paper. The Vorthan soldiers moved with deadly grace that made other aliens step back in fear. Their boots clicked against the metal floor in perfect rhythm as they marched through the station corridors. Commander Velox rushed to greet the Vorthan general with nervous bows and respectful words. The blue-skinned alien leader of Harmony Station knew that making the Vorthans angry could mean disaster for everyone Velox had seen. What happened to stations that did not show proper respect to the Empire? General Kekstar barely looked at Commander Velox as he spoke. His voice was deep and rough like rocks grinding together. He announced that he was here to inspect all the species on the station to judge their worthiness for continued membership in the Galactic Council. Many aliens had heard rumors about these inspections, and they never ended well for the species being judged. The general began his tour by visiting the strongest alien races first. He went to the Kralik section, where the shell-covered warriors tried to impress him with displays of their fighting skills. Kekstar watched with bored eyes as the Kralik soldiers broke metal bars and lifted heavy weights. The general made notes on an electronic tablet, but his expression showed no approval. Next, the Vorthans visited the Melody, who were known for their advanced technology. The pale-skinned aliens demonstrated their newest inventions, including weapons that could destroy entire ships with one shot. General Kekstar seemed more interested in these devices, but still wrote his notes with the same cold expression. Word spread quickly through the station that the general was judging everyone. Jinwoo heard the news from other diplomatic staff and felt his stomach turn with worry. He knew that humans would eventually be inspected, and he feared what the massive alien general would think of Earth. People Ambassador Lee called an emergency meeting with all the human staff. She looked more worried than Jinwoo had ever seen her before. Lee explained that they needed to make the best possible impression on General Kekstar, because the future of humanity in space might depend on this one encounter. Kim Tae-hyun worked frantically to make sure every part of the human section was perfectly clean. He polished metal surfaces until they shone like mirrors and organized equipment in neat rows. He knew that Vorthans respected order and discipline, so he wanted everything to look military perfect. Dr. Yoon Ji-hee gathered all the medical supplies and made sure her equipment was working properly. She had heard that Vorthans sometimes tested species by causing injuries to see how well they could heal their wounded. The doctor prepared emergency supplies just in case the inspection became violent. Park Min-ho checked all the security systems in the human areas, even though he knew his simple weapons would be useless against Vorthan soldiers. He felt frustrated that humans were not allowed to have the same advanced weapons as other species. It made protecting his people almost impossible. Han So-young continued her work in the medical bay, taking care of alien patients who had been injured in accidents around the station. She noticed that more aliens were getting hurt as fear of the Vorthans made everyone clumsy and nervous. So-young worked extra hours to help everyone who needed medical attention. The Vorthan inspection continued for 2 days, as General Kekstar visited each alien species in turn. Some groups tried to show off their military strength while others demonstrated their intelligence or technology. Nothing seemed to impress the giant reptilian general, who wrote his notes with the same cold efficiency. Finally, the moment came that all humans had been dreading. A Vorthan soldier appeared at the entrance to the human section and announced that General Kekstar would inspect them in 1 hour. Ambassador Lee gathered everyone together and reminded them to stay calm and respectful no matter what happened. When General Kekstar arrived at the human quarters, he had to duck under the doorway because the entrance was built for smaller species. His yellow eyes immediately began scanning everything in the room, looking for signs of weakness or failure. His massive clawed hands were clasped behind his back as he walked slowly through the area. The general stopped in front of Jinwoo, who tried to stand as straight and tall as possible. Kekstar looked down at the young human and made a sound that might have been laughter. The sound was not pleasant, and it made Jinwoo feel very small and afraid. Kekstar began speaking in his grinding voice about how pathetic humans looked compared to real warriors. He said that humans were soft and weak, like the small animals that Vorthons used for food back on their homeworld. The general walked around Jinwoo like he was examining a piece of broken equipment. Ambassador Li stepped forward and tried to speak diplomatically about human achievements and their desire to contribute to galactic civilization. General Kekstar cut her off with a wave of his massive hand. He said that words were meaningless and only strength mattered in the real galaxy. General ordered his soldiers to begin inspecting human belongings to see what kind of weapons and technology they possessed. The Vorthon guards began going through personal items with no care for their importance. They threw family photos on the floor and tossed clothing around like garbage. Jinwoo watched his personal tablet get smashed under a Vorthon boot and felt anger building in his chest. He had pictures of his family back on Earth stored on that device, and now they were destroyed. The young diplomat clenched his fists but tried to stay calm like Ambassador Li had instructed. Kim Tae-hyun saw his carefully organized tool collection being scattered across the floor. Tools that he had brought from Earth and maintained with great care were now being treated like trash. The older man bit his lip to keep from saying something that might make the situation worse. General Kekstar seemed to enjoy watching the humans suffer as their possessions were destroyed. He made comments about how primitive human technology was compared to advanced alien devices. The general picked up a human medical scanner and crushed it in one hand to show how weak human construction was. Park Min-ho stepped forward when he saw a Vorthon soldier about to destroy a memorial picture of human soldiers who had died protecting Earth. The security officer could not watch this happen without saying something, even if it meant trouble. At that moment, Han So-young entered the room returning from her shift in the medical bay. She saw the chaos and destruction and immediately moved to help gather the scattered belongings. Her natural instinct to help others kicked in despite the obvious danger from the massive alien soldiers. General Kekstar noticed the young human woman, and his yellow eyes focused on her with predatory interest. He saw an opportunity to make his point about human weakness in a way that would be remembered by everyone on the station.